Hello everyone, this is Brad Wistance, and about a month ago, someone on Reddit suggested that I do a collaboration with fellow KSP YouTuber Stratzenblitz. So I've successfully kidnapped him, and the collaboration is now here.
Hello everyone, Stratzenblitz here, and so after some debate, we decided to build an aircraft carrier, because this is something we could both work on. I mean, one person could build the aircraft carrier, another person could build something to take it on.
And I've made an aircraft carrier before, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with it, right?
Well, maybe one problem. Maybe just one problem. It wasn't big enough. So, that was the goal for this aircraft carrier. To have it large enough that you could land some pretty heavy stuff on it.
So he then quite outrageously claimed that the deck on his aircraft carrier was more or less indestructible. So I've built this seaplane here as an attempt to destroy it. I originally built the seaplane with one long wing with all the engines side by side on it, but someone built a control tower in the way. But anyway, this plane has 8 propeller engines on it. We're going to see a lot of propeller engines in this video. You want to go over some of the little fun quirks we discovered about propeller engines here?
Oh boy, so we had some fun building these things. So, Bradley scoured online for some propeller engine designs, and he came across this propeller engine built by Squiddy, which used a fairing. And, you know, he built it out, and it worked pretty well, actually, so we decided to build a seaplane out of it. The only problem is that when you build something with multiple propellers, if you make any changes to it, you're going to have to rebuild every single one of those fairings. Or else you're going to have
that didn't test my
problems.
Patience at all. It was completely non-irritating.
Another interesting thing with the propellers is that they had some issues with time warp, as in they worked completely fine before time warping, but afterwards they would start getting stuck and doing all sorts of weird things.
What's irritating is the propeller engines I've used in the past have broken during time warp, and I can understand that, but these don't break. They just work differently after time warping than before time warping.
Right,
and not in a good way.
Right, so what I did is I took these propeller engines, I modified them a bit. So I basically took them out and replaced the bearing with some linear RCS ports of all things. And while they seem to have some reliability issues during high G maneuvers, overall they seem to handle time warp just fine, which is important for long-term missions because you might want to come back to them after a while.
So I've loaded up this seaplane with some cargo that is a bit of a sneak peek at a subsequent mission in this series. Anyway, I'm coming in for a landing on this carrier, and I would like to say that I actually did not use any quick saves on this because while it can survive time warp on the ground, it cannot survive time warp in the air. I tried,
Nope.
And it just does not happen. And quite irritatingly, the deck somehow survived landing a 70-ton plane with 42 tons of cargo in it.
And that's without any auto struts either. So the carrier is just built out of these Mark III fuel tanks, as you see here. And they're surprisingly tough. Bradley would say they're irritatingly tough.
The landing on this carrier was so violent that you can actually see it shake back and forth when I land, but it did not break. But I then faced an issue that because this carrier was only 150 meters long, and I'd used most of the deck to land, I didn't have barely any deck to take off with. But somehow this plane was enough to actually make the aircraft carrier move through the water at a fairly good speed, such that I almost reached stall speed while still on the deck with the wheels not moving.
Yeah, I was wondering, like, oh, I maybe should have, like, an engine on this thing to push the planes off, but it turns out the planes can just accelerate the carrier all the way up to speed.
So, you guys might be wondering, we've already seen the seaplane fly, it's took off now. Why do we still have this clip here? And this is actually Stratzenblitz's fault.
Yeah, so he suggested that he was going to land it back on the runway, which is a perfectly reasonable place to land a plane, of course. I mean, where else would you land a plane? But, you know, seeing as he managed to land it on the carrier, I thought that the runway would be a little too easy for him.
I think you called me lame.
Oh, did I?
I believe so. No, I'm not mad about it or anything, of course.
No. So, no, I insisted by calling him lame to land it on top of the VAB.
Like with the landing on the aircraft carrier, the propeller engines meant that I could not use quick save, and frankly it's a bit miraculous that it happened on the third try, because given the lack of room for error, it would probably take me many more than 3 times if I attempted it again. So at this point, I sailed the aircraft carrier all the way around the planet Kerbal manually. I got some protein shakes and baby carrots, and I sat at my computer for about a day while doing this.
I was there the whole trip. It was fun.
So we built a big, long aircraft carrier. It's practically indestructible. It has some cool features we haven't gotten into yet. So, but we can do that in the next video. I think we've done a fairly good job here, right?
Yeah, I think this is pretty much set. I mean, we can land all sorts of planes on it. You know, we can use it for all sorts of things on Kerbal. Maybe launching rockets from it, barge landings, all sorts of fun stuff. Well, this has certainly been a lot of fun, Bradley.
This was really fun working together. We definitely ought to do this in the future.
All right, I'll see you in the next video. Bye.
Roll credits.
But you know, the fact that it's not in space is kind of lame.
It is
Don't you think?
It is a little bit lame.
Yeah.
I mean, this is Kerbal Space Program, not Kerbal Boat Program. Although I would play that game. So this is really a result of needing some payback. I might not have been able to destroy the carrier with a plane, but I can launch it into the air with a rocket. And look at that, we're in the air. So there was a bit of a disagreement in the aircraft carrier itself. See, the boosters wanted to go up, and the aircraft carrier wanted to go down. So I actually I enforced mediation through the addition of many struts, and we seem to have reached an agreement here.
Yeah, those struts, they're the glue that holds this family together.
I also want to point out the completely safe design of having your engines at the front of the craft. In fact, in front of the crew cabins, with the the engine thrust coming back at them.
Which the Kerbals are totally not in, by the way. We're sending them later, of course, right?
Are we?
Did you?
No, they're in there.
Did you seriously put
they're in there. Oh. I turn IVA portraits off because of computer performance issues, because someone just kept having to make the carrier larger.
By the way, I told him that I totally expected him to come back and tell me it was too large to launch.
I didn't want to admit defeat, and the 2 biggest problems were stability, which was solved by moving the engines further and further up the carrier until it worked, and that's actually why they're almost at the top of it. And the second big problem was actually making it not destroy itself on the launch pad. And I tried a lot of different designs with the launch clamps until I finally got something that could actually sit there without being destroyed.
Originally, he wanted to drop it off the launch clamps as soon as it started and just launch it while it was in the air.
Hey, that wasn't a bad idea.
No, it wasn't, but you couldn't get the beauty shots. The most important thing.
So at this point, I thought I'd done a pretty good job. I had made it an SSTO, makes it all the way to orbit, and the boosters were going to land back vertically on the planet. I thought that was pretty good, right?
No, that's not good enough. You know, I thought it was a little bit lame.
He's discovered that that's the word that can get me to do anything.
It's his button.
I want to break in here and point out that the almost space collision there was not intentional, and I was just as surprised and as concerned as everyone else. So you might notice that I'm actually flying this thing in reverse right now. And the reason for that is that if the engines are at the back when it's empty, pretty much all the mass is going to be at the back of the craft. And you'd have to put the wings on this craft so far back for it to be stable that it would be just about impossible for you actually to keep the nose pitched up when you're at lower speed.
I'm pretty sure the wings would have to be off of it.
And at which point you wouldn't be able to keep the nose up unless you had like 10 of those big-ass space plane control surfaces.
We don't overdo control surfaces around here. Matt is very
So
Brad is very tight about his weight.
I am. Indeed. Take that however you like. So I originally thought that someone told me I should land this on the carrier, but frankly, the boosters on this almost destroyed the runway when I landed on it.
He found a way to destroy the carrier, I will say.
It did actually destroy the carrier. In fact, it pulverized it into particles that are so small that CERN is now going to use this as a particle collider in the future. So the big boosters are landed. We've got one more booster still attached to it, which is the nuclear booster, which viewers may notice I am now pronouncing properly. Thank you so much for that. So I'm doing an 80 meter per second burn with this. And you think that's enough to get us where we need to go?
About right. I think like one or two more should get you all the way.
One or two more.
One or two more.
Where in heck are we going?
Oh wait, did I say something?
I vote dress.
Oh, what did you say?
I vote we go to dress.
What's that?
I'm not sure. I saw it written down once, but I'm
word?
not sure what it is.
Yeah, so no, that's a good question. Where should we send this carrier? You know, so
The
we got
sun.
it into space.
The sun.
The sun.
A black hole.
You know, the sun does have an ocean.
We can
Maybe.
land it on the helipad.
Might be a bit too big. That's a good suggestion, though.
So, if anyone guessed Eve, you're correct. So, I am now injecting into Eve orbit. And you have any preference on what kind of orbit you want this thing left in?
Oh, yeah, I just, like, 25 degrees, because I want to land it somewhere.
He said 25 degrees, but I asked him if he wanted in polar orbit, and he said sure. So,
yeah, why not?
This caused absolutely zero problems down the road. And
nope.
I also realized at this point that the fuel tanks in the nuclear booster are actually not liquid fuel tanks, but adapters. So it didn't have as much fuel in it as I thought. And as a result, I couldn't put the carrier all the way down in low Eve orbit, so I left it up in elliptical orbit. And Stratzenblitz really was pleased with this decision. It again caused zero problems with the landing.
No problems. Absolutely none.
So we're all about recycling here at the Kerbal Space Program. So
everything has to be reusable.
The last part of this video is going to be bringing the nuclear booster back to Kerbin. So I had to bring it back out of a polar orbit and then back out into space. Because I had left it in an elliptical orbit, I couldn't eject where I really wanted to. And I couldn't get a direct rendezvous with Kerbin. So what I'm doing here is I just got a orbit that intersects with Kerbin's orbit. And then I waited until I was at that intersection, and now I'm doing a prograde burn, which is going to time my orbit such that 3 orbits from now, I will rendezvous with Kerbin directly.
That's a good way to get around launch windows.
It is a good way to get around launch windows, and in fact, it just means all you have to do is get an intersection. You don't need a rendezvous.
There's a Kerbal in that thing?
There's no Kerbal in this thing. It's a.
Okay, good. So we're not making him wait around.
Well, if it was one of my videos, I'd call him Robotug. Sure, we can say it's Robotug. Why not?
No, it's Robotug now. We installed him on this.
So, again, the boosters were destroying the carrier. So, runway?
Yeah, let's do the runway. We'll do the runway. Although,
You know, my original thought with this thing was that with 16 nuclear engines on the front, that it would have a ton of drag and slow down pretty quickly. But this guess was not accurate. I probably should have tested this booster a bit more. So it looks like I'm landing on the carrier. You think I can land at 80 meters per second and stop in time?
I thought you were going the runway.
You think I can land in 80 meters per second, still stop?
It's going to be close. But I think you have a secret. I think you have a trick up your sleeve. What's that?
So when I first tested this, I called Stratzenblitz back up and told him it couldn't be done. And he called me lame. So then I had to figure out how to do it. So it turns out if you put a parachute on it and you pull the chute at exactly the right moment, you stall the craft right onto the aircraft carrier. And
just like that.
I'm pleased to say this all happened right on exactly the first attempt. There
I
was
was surprised.
there was
I was
no
shocked
failed
that he did that.
attempts. There is definitely
Yeah.
not going to be a video at some point of all the failed landing attempts.
Absolutely not. He did this first try. I saw it live.
So, you guys might notice that this video seems suspiciously unfinished, and that is because the rest of the video is over on Stratzenblitz's channel, and because we still need to figure out how to land this carrier on Eve.
Yep.
Again, there'll be no issues whatsoever.
Now, the orbit he gave me was completely fine for doing this.
Exactly. He was really pleased with an elliptical polar orbit. That was definitely a convenient way to land. So thank you everyone very much for watching. If you liked it, please like and subscribe, and don't forget to use the link on the screen to go check out the rest of the video. So everyone, take care of yourself and don't do anything I wouldn't do.